Hello warriors, this is Mars, and welcome back to another Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord video. The Heavy Cavalry in Bannerlord is one of the most important and iconic units in the game. Every faction has their own unique unit with a particular way to deploy them for battle. Originally, I wanted this video to be about how to improve the Battalion Horseman and make it a more viable choice if I ever decided to do a Battalion only playthrough. But then I realized that they're so terrible it is absolutely maddening. I had an idea for a video to argue why they should be better than what they are and how to improve them, but then I realized I'll just divest into the game mechanics that already exist and focus on building units the best that I can with my own skills, do my own research with the help of other content creators like Strat Gaming, along with my own testing. Lots and lots of testing. Armed with knowledge and motivation, I pushed forward and commenced my own strategy for greatness. I learned that the Battalion Horseman primarily suffers from poor AI and just overall poor equipment. They have a really slow horse, and when they get stuck in a formation they only scream and beg for their commander to come and save them instead of running straight through the enemy line and breaking up their formation, softening them for the allied infantry to come clean them up. I also noticed that they never swap to their sidearms, being a really effective cavalry sword or their bearded axe, and they just keep attempting to stab the enemy with a 20-foot long spear within a meter of their target, which ends with them not dealing any additional damage at all and getting themselves slaughtered. So with that in mind, I realized that it might just be a better option to have them crash into the enemy lines and deal charge damage. This was the solution I was looking for. However, their horses weren't really fast and their charge damage wasn't necessarily effective because they weren't picking up enough speed. The Battalion Horsemen are usable with a competent commander and a lot of micromanaging. Granted, they are still significantly weaker than any other cavalry unit in Calradia and easily slaughtered by most units in game. However, this video ain't about them. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to maximize your cavalry's performance through the player's skills, how to double buff your own skills for even more damage, showing which perks are the most effective for a cavalry unit, and the tactics that I believe perform the best against spear-heavy cultures. The tactics that I employed with the Battalion Horsemen can be transferred to every other cavalry unit in-game and make them even stronger than they currently are. Let's begin by choosing the best player skills and companion skills. Okay, let's go over player and companion skills, because skills are really what's going to help develop your cavalry, especially in my case since I mainly did testing with the Battalion Horsemen. So I'm going to go over some things that I felt like were the best possible picks, especially for building up that cavalry unit since they're so weak. And the first thing I'm going to focus on is the total mitigation and survivability for that unit. So the first thing I would really consider is trying to work towards a higher level of engineering, because the metallurgy skill, giving that +5 armor to all equipped armor pieces of troops in your formation, is probably one of the most important skills, especially since they have like one of the worst helmets in the game. Not to mention, next we're going into medicine. We're going to build up their mounts with sledges, giving 15 hit points to mounts in your party, and where is it? Minister of Health. So we're going to bump up the maximum health of every unit in your party once you get past 200 healing. Next, I want to talk a little bit about stewardship, but that's more about building up your forces. Since the Battalion Horseman, or better yet the Battalion Scout starting out, is really lightly armored, they're more likely to die in most situations compared to the Battalion Horsemen. They'll probably die in one hit sooner. So I would suggest really building up your stewardship just so you'd be able to discard armor and weapons that you're not using to help build them up faster, so they at least have a chance of surviving at least 3 or 4 hits before they go down. That being paid in promise and giving hands. So going back into survivability, we would also go towards having thick hides in the two-handed skill tree just to bump up all troops' health by 5 points. The more health points, the better. I'd say the final mitigation skill to have would be Dauntless Steed, because it gives 5 points of armor to every armor statted piece on that your troops are wearing. So that's one way you can increase the battalion horseman survivability, because they do tend to get stuck in formations very easily, and if you don't micromanage them, they will die pretty quickly. In terms of offensive skills or melee competency, I'd go for wrapped handles, since that would increase their combat skill overall. They'd be able to draw their weapons more efficiently, and they'd be able to swing a bit faster. And then I would choose cavalry, just because, I mean, it gives all the cavalry an extra 5 points of melee damage. I would also suggest having arrow catcher, which is also another mitigation skill, being that large shield protection area against projectiles to troops in your formation. The shields are quite small, so this would help them survive better against range damage. At least early on, they'd have a higher survival chance before they get slaughtered by the infantry. And in polearms, we'd go for either pikemen or cavalry, just because they both affect the damage of the cavalry in your formation. Specifically, you would want lancer, because you'd get that speed bonus from the polearms while they're at full tilt, and you would also want, I'm looking, phalanx, because it would give them an additional 3% more damage done. In athletics, you would want powerful, just because it would bump up their melee damage even more. Originally, I thought surging blows was going to affect the speed damage of your troops, but it looks like there is absolutely no correlation between certain athletic skills and cavalrymen. Going into riding, I chose full speed specifically for my character, but from watching Strat's video, the 30% riding skill will help them in pretty much every aspect of cavalry. Their draw speed, their swing speed, their riding speed is just a better option. I have this skill on my actual companion commander. I use sweeping wind specifically just for a little bit more speed, but I'm not sure if it's that effective, but I use it anyway. And we go with mounted warrior for more melee damage, and those are all the effective damaging skills outside of the tactics here, where like Jins de Arms gives you an additional 2 damage to cavalry, and there's one more that gives you like 1% here. There it is. Coaching gives you 1% to damage to troops in your formation. And there's also Carver and Roguery if you're really trying to bump up that damage even further. So I did a lot of testing with the charge damage while having my companion as the captain of the cavalry unit, and I really like the combination of nimble steed giving troops under his command more riding skill, making it easier for them to maneuver their horses, drawing their weapons, and having faster swing speed. The enhanced charge damage with the speed bonus from nomadic traditions enhances the overall damage of your company's charge. This inflicts more damage to the enemy when you smash into their lines. I ran a lot of tests on charging into Sea Raiders, and I'm planning on doing a separate video just to show how effective a good charge can destroy a strong formation. The most effective charge can make it very easy to wipe out a softened opposing force. You can also increase the effectiveness of your charge with your banner. You can use the Horseman's banner or the Knight's banner to increase the charge's damage. However, the best banner for charge damage is the Tug of Endless Step, which far exceeds the damage of any other charge banner effect. I plan to show all of the data in a separate video. Next, let's talk about formations. Typically, I focused on the charge damage, which is what I've stated through most of the video, taking 70 horsemen versus 70 shielded infantry. I took Strat's idea of splitting the cavalry in 2 groups and charging them one after the other, maximizing the shock of the charge. This way I could disperse the full weight of the charge and hit the enemy from 2 different directions. This made it easier for slower horses to inflict more damage on a superior infantry force and still potentially get away so they can repeat the process. I would like to say that this was a successful strategy that worked 100% of the time and could make the battalion horsemen a viable unit, but I'd be lying. They are just not tanky enough to deal with shielded spear infantry units without the proper captain buffs. I tried this with the Aserai Vanguard Fares, and they tore through the infantry like a plague. After that simulated battle, I reduced the total numbers of riders to 50, and they still smashed them at the cost of 14 troops. It's difficult to pull off against spear-heavy cultures due to the fact that they can hit the riders before they engage. With battalion horsemen, I had to make sure they went through their line so they wouldn't get immediately slaughtered by the infantry, nor get in the way of the oncoming second wave of the cavalry, slowing down their charge, which happened pretty often. Hitting the infantry from two different directions simultaneously softened them and made them easier to clean up, each charge wiping out more and more enemy soldiers to the point where I didn't have to manage them as much anymore, and they could handle the remaining troop without me having to micromanage them. I would also make sure each group of cavalry would be about 100 to 125 meters away from the enemy infantry so they could reach adequate charging speed, inflicting the most damage possible. That's the most important part because the full weight of the charge is what causes the enemy to break the fastest. The sooner the cavalry reaches top speed, the more damage the initial charge can inflict. Well, that's all for now, guys. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I will be making some more Bannerlord uploads soon, so I hope to hear from you all in the next video. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and share the video. If you like this type of content, consider hitting that sub button and join my merry band of hardened warriors. We'd love to have you. Thanks again for watching, and keep on slaying. Peace.